Moving on to Gabon, the new military leader, General Brice Oligui Nguema, has promised a return to democracy, but hasn't set a timeline for fresh elections. The opposition remains skeptical, with the military showing no clear signs of relinquishing power to civilians. Ali Bongo, the former president, is currently under house arrest after the military took control following a disputed election. General Nguema emphasizes the need for swift but cautious reforms to avoid repeating past election mistakes. The opposition, particularly Alternance 2023, has called on the international community to support a return to civilian rule. The coup in Gabon, the eighth in Western Central Africa since 2020, has drawn condemnation from the United Nations, the African Union, and France, Gabon's former colonial power. While Ali Bongo seeks international support, his removal is celebrated by many Gabonese who were discontent with his family's long-standing rule. Now, joining us on this discussion is David Otto, Director, Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies. We also have Sylvester William Nem, a Pan-African hospitality and tourism consultant. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us on the conversation. I would like to start with you, David. David, could you provide a historical context of the Bongo family's 55-year hold on power in Gabon and the factors that ultimately led to their ousting in the recent coup?
I think Benga is even more than that. Remember that Gabon gained its independence in 1960. At that critical point in time, Omar Bongo's father was a key beneficiary of that independence of Gabon. That's I'm talking about when Gabon gained independence. 6 years afterwards, he then made his son, influenced the situation in Gabon, and his son, Omar Bongo, became the president of Gabon in 1967. That's only 7 years after Gabon gained independence. Remember, this is a period of time when those who fought for the independence of their country thought that they were entitled to run as leaders at the highest level of politics. Omar Bongo himself, of course, ruled Gabon from 1967 until 2009. He had several children, of course. Ali Bongo was one of them, but there were talks about the fact that he was more or less an adopted son of Omar Bongo. And therefore, those who saw themselves as the biological children of Omar Bongo, were quite not very pleased to see that Ali Bongo rose to power. Of course, Ali Bongo was in power from 2009. And I think it's quite critical because General Nguema Brice, who led this coup, was the aide-de-camp, that's the security guard of President Omar Bongo when he was in power. Interestingly, in 2009, when Ali Bongo took power, he did not want to have, General Brice around him. And then he sent him to diplomatic missions in Senegal and Morocco. But of course, in 2017, when Ali Bongo suffered a stroke, and then, of course, he had a coup attempt on his government in 2018, he thought the best person to bring back into the country to protect his regime was General Nguema Brice. And of course, we know what happened from there. There were issues of Ali Bongo, changing the constitution to run forever in Gabon with no term limits. There were also issues when the rules of the game were changed by the Electoral Commission just days before the election, ensuring that anyone who voted for a particular party at the presidential level had to vote for that party at the parliamentary level. I mean, this was, of course, a tactic, according to many critics and the opposition, to stop the Alternance 2023, which is the main political coalition of Albert Ondo, who is the main opposition party. They wanted to stop them from acquiring as much votes from the population. But of course, what happened was that he was announced to have gained 30% of the election. Bongo was given 64%. But 4 hours after that, he saw himself being overthrown by coup led by General Brice Nguema, the same man whom he brought, to protect his regime. Now, I have spoken to people on ground, and what they describe, the current situation is that this is some sort of a family affair. What we're seeing is a breakthrough coup, according to what General Brice wants the population to believe. He wants the population to believe that this coup was organized to kind of stop the dynasty that the Bongo family has been ruling for a while. But of course, if you dig deeper, you realize that General Brice is the same family from Ali Bongo. He's been known to be the cousin of Ali Bongo. So the question now is, has the Bongo family gone, or is just replacing one segment of the Bongo family with another segment of the Bongo family? But what is also critical, Benga, I have to mention, is that there has been a kind of triple standard in the way that the European states have condemned this particular coup. We're talking about the fact that the French ambassador to Gabon actually visited General Brice before his inauguration, which has just taken place today.
Which is
this is
in contrast with
ahead.
the French policy in Niger, where the ambassadors refused to vacate even after his diplomatic credentials have been withdrawn. They say they don't. The official French position is that they don't recognize the junta there. And that the president hasn't resigned. But from what we know, Ali Bongo hasn't resigned, and just by visiting him does show some type of recognition, of France or of General Ngema's government, some sort of legitimacy.
Yes, of course. I mean, it does demonstrate that the French do recognize the military junta in Gabon, as opposed to what they claimed, that they do not recognize the military junta in Niger because President Bazoum, who was deposed, has not officially resigned. But we know that President Ali Bongo, who was deposed, came out very strongly and talked about make some noise, which has become some kind of an infamous or famous quote, whichever you want to place it. That also demonstrates that he has not resigned. So it's kind of beyond double standards for the for the French to now seem to lean towards the military junta. But of course, again, we've got to be very clear as Africans and understand that it's all about the interest and whoever's interest that a particular military coup does serve. It does appear, let me just add that the interest of the European Union, or perhaps the interest of France, is not being disturbed, to use that word in the case of Gabon. But of course, in the case of Niger Republic and countries like Mali and Burkina Faso, the French are losing out, and therefore they are screaming that this is a coup. But a coup is a coup, whichever way you look at it. Over to you, Benga.
Thank you very much, David. I'd like to bring in our second guest, Sylvester Nem, into this conversation. Sylvester, you coined a term for this. Is it the Francophone Spring, if I'm not mistaken? Now, Sylvester, General Oligui Nguema has pledged to make Gabon's state institutions more democratic. He said this stint is just temporary, but he has refused to provide a timeline to fresh elections, to when Gabon is going to return to a democratic country. And this raises concerns about the military's commitment to a democratic transition. What potential obstacles or motivations could be behind these reluctances? And do you really believe him that this is a temporary stint? Because they say power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Yes, totally. I believe him because the country was being run by his wife, allegedly, from what I hear from people in Gabon. The country was being led by the First Lady, Sylvia, which she gave all the power to the son, Nordine. So there's no way that things cannot get any worse than that. When you have someone whose first job is to be running a country and with no training, no knowledge of political science or anything. So far, the retirements were not even paid. The treasury, the national treasury was completely empty. You've seen probably the videos of the amount of cash, millions of dollars that were found in the homes. I don't know what kind of things they could be doing with that amount of cash. But so far, I think, like Daniel said, it's definitely, David, sorry, like he said, it's definitely a family issue because so far the media is not mentioning the ties that Ali Bongo and his first wife, who is not one of his wife, who is the daughter of Congolese President Sassou Nguesso, the late Edith. They had two children together. One is Bongo Junior, Omar Junior, and the second is a lady, Yassine. They have nothing has been said about them, and apparently even the relationship between Ali Bongo and the President Sassou Nguesso has been deteriorated because of that. So to me, I feel like definitely this has been a dynasty, and now that institutions have been put back in place, I think there's hope for Gabon today. Even though the general is the cousin of Ali Bongo, his name is not Bongo, and that's already a big change.
Now, but why do you say you believe him to keep to the transition period? And why haven't they given a date or timeline to that?
Like he said, I was watching the press conference with the national press and international press. Like he said the military is not politician. They're not politicians, and they're definitely more pragmatic. So they are looking into ways to first investigate what has been done and why was the country not functioning, why the economy was totally failing in Gabon, and the situation was really deteriorating day by day. So I think there's more that needs to be found because the same family, which had Omar Bongo, the late Omar Bongo, had 60 children, and Gabon only has a population of 1.5 million. The other 500,000, they are all foreigners. So you can understand that this country is like a big village. Everybody knows each other and everybody has ties. So he cannot run the country without the knowledge of the people that were there before him.
Now, thank you, Sylvester. Now, David, you did touch on not even double standards, triple standards of the French. Could you delve into the historical relationship between France and the Bongo family, and how might France's stance in this situation impact the political dynamics in Gabon?
Well, as you know, France has been the past colonial power in Gabon and most of the Francophone countries. But specifically, the father of Ali Bongo, Omar Bongo, was a staunch ally of the French. And, that means whenever the French had issues in Central Africa, they would either turn to Omar Bongo or President Paul Biya. So these were very key allies. Of course, Sassou Nguesso of Congo Brazzaville is also one of them. So Gabon has been one of those countries where the French have always had assurances that they would remain kind of loyal to the French. And of course, the French have been exploiting the country's resources, for a very long time. So at this point in time, the big question has always been, the coup that happened, who is it going to benefit? But when you look at the dynamics of things and, the family issues that we've all mentioned, it tells you very clearly that the French are more likely not to be the loser at this particular point in time, as opposed to, how they've been able to lose in the case of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and perhaps Guinea as well. In the case of Gabon, I don't think, of course, that the French are worried as they've been. Of course, the United States does not have that huge presence in Gabon. We are not very sure that Russia would have any influence in Gabon as well. So the French seem to, in this case, they would play games with whoever is in power. And I think
their interest is not threatened, to put it lightly. if that's what you mean, David.
Yeah, can you say that again?
The French interest is not threatened in this situation in Gabon.
It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, so far the French interest is not threatened, but we don't know if that is going to change. That will then depend.
Okay.
On what
it's still early days. Thank you very much, David Otto. I'm afraid we're out of time. David Otto, Director, Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies, joining from Abuja, Nigeria, and also Sylvester William Nem, Pan-African Hospitality and Tourism Consultant. It was a pleasure having you, gentlemen. I look forward to having you back soon. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you.